For example, I'm having here Apple Watch, right? And Apple Watch is now even classified as class 2 medical device because it can detect arrhythmia. And fun fact, my aunt, that was last year for Easter, we had some family gathering. And when you have family gathering, you eat, you drink, etc. And the next day, the Apple Watch turned on the alarm because her heart started to beat like irregularly. So she went to the hospital, and actually, thanks to this Apple Watch, everything went fine. So why I'm saying this is that this ECG or EKG actually can save you even like lives, and the software as medical device can save people's lives right now.
Welcome to the MedTech 101 podcast, and today I've got an exciting guest who I saw because she went to LSI, which is a popular sort of like MedTech conference that almost everyone in the industry attends, and now she's working at HTD as the software as a medical device principal lead. I know it can be quite a mouthful for people to pronounce it all, but welcome, Weronika Michaluk, right? Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yes. Thank you so much, Rodney. It's a pleasure to be here. It's not the easiest to actually say my last name as I'm Polish, so you did very well. Very happy to be here.
Thank you very much for coming on the podcast today. Like most people don't really know how like software can be a medical device because people tend to associate devices with hardware components, but software is also considered a medical device because that's how we like to create regulations in the medical device industry. The regulations are really high compared to other places. But before we even dive into that, I think you're going to have a lot of information to share with us. I just wanted to start by, talking about your personal background because I find it quite interesting, like how you grew up in Poland, did an MBA, did a PhD, you speak 5 languages, you worked on like 5 continents, and like even climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. So the first time I saw that, I was like, are you like an engineer, or are you a scientist, or are you like hiding as a spy, for like the Polish government? So could you give us a quick background in terms of like how your life has been leading up to this point?
Of course, and I'm not a spy, not a government spy. That's one thing for sure. But thank you so much, Rodney, for such a nice intro. So yes, my name is Weronika. I'm Polish, as you can tell by my accent. I am a biomedical engineer by training. Have been in medical device space for around a decade right now, and actually started my career as a biomedical engineer. Doing the hands-on work, as like doing the soldering, all the programming, all the really fun stuff. And also in the very beginning of my career, I built and designed and built a wireless EKG system that included, doing all this soldering that I mentioned, and also creating like the mobile app. So that was in the very beginning of my career, and after that, and that was in Poland. And then after that time, I moved to South Korea, to Gwangju, very south of South Korea, where I was working in the neuroscience department, and I was focused on optogenetics research. And this was pretty cool because what we were doing, we were actually controlling mice with the use of light. And my professor is still doing the research there. We were actually doing the research whether you can bank the sleep. So if you would know that, for example, next week you're going to a very demanding conference and you're going to be sleep deprived, whether you can actually sleep more ahead of time. So the professor is still doing the research, but it's going well. So after that time, of part of my life when I was kind of, engineer and a researcher, I moved to United States, to Miami, where I did my master's and MBA then at the University of Miami. And I got a job from a big medical device company, Boston Scientific, where I was in charge of actually Latin American and Caribbean region, which was also very nice because it was just the culture and the experience was amazing, and the work at this company as well. And after that time, I moved back to Europe, to Barcelona, Spain, and I also met Zach, the CEO of HTD Health, and I joined HTD Health, and I am here responsible for software's medical device department practice. As at HTD Health, we have different practices, and myself, I'm leading SAMD, which is software's medical device. And last year, finally, I also finished my Doctor of Public Health that was also focused on software as medical device design and development. And yes, I climbed Kilimanjaro. It was amazing. It was fantastic. I actually love Tanzania and people there, and just the experience of hiking up the mountain was just amazing. So definitely would recommend to everyone to do this.
Nice, nice. That's really exciting. Really, I don't even know where to begin. But just to start with the like the basic questions. When you came to Mount Kilimanjaro, because I also went there during my gap year. Did you like? Was that your first time in Africa, or like was that what did you think? Was it what you expected, or was it something different? I always like to ask my European friends this particular question.
Yeah, that was my first time. Actually, I've never been to Africa before, but I was always dreaming about hiking Kilimanjaro, as this is like the tallest standalone mountain in the world. And I also like was listening to some other friends that actually did it, that I just like knew from like virtual worlds, let's say. And I was like, man, that would be a fantastic challenge to do, and I really loved it. And I have to tell you that I met so many different people on the way up. And of course, I also had a guide that was guiding me towards the top. The guide was from Tanzania. He was amazing. I mean, if anybody wants to do Kilimanjaro, I can definitely recommend my guide, because thanks to him, I actually did it. Because when I was like, oh my god, I cannot do it. I think it's hard, and he was like, come on, you can do it. It's easy.
Yes.
Peter, his name is Peter. So it was very nice, and all the people were also very nice in Tanzania. So my memories about the country are amazing. And after Kilimanjaro, we did safari, so we saw some animals and explored the place. So it was also great. So yeah, I mean, I actually have to tell you that I didn't expect a lot, because I didn't know what to expect. But from like the country, what I was expecting is that it will be very hot. It was, and that you will have tons of great fruits, and you had
Nice.
great, and people were very nice as well. So I'm looking forward. Maybe one day I will come back to Kilimanjaro and do the more difficult path.
Nice, nice. That's really good, because I think what you took, for just a quick knowledge point for people out there, is that there's what they call the Coca-Cola route, where you can actually go in these camping points when you're trying to
Correct.
summit Kilimanjaro. So it's like you don't have to be, like it's not similar to when you're summiting like Everest, where sometimes you have to make your own base camps, etc. It's something that I think if you train for it, just to get used to the altitude, etc., you can actually do that. But no, that's really that's good. And next time you're gonna come back, I'm happy to recommend some other African countries for you to actually visit and see. Since I grew up in I grew up in Zimbabwe and South Africa. So I'm quite familiar with the like the nice points and stuff, the hidden gems that people don't see. But then moving on to like the actual stuff, like like your life as a biomedical engineer, and I know you mentioned the word like EKG, but for most people who don't know what an EKG is, the long word is an electrocardiogram, which can also be called an EKG or ECG,
Mhm.
depending where you are. Could you tell us how does that work, really, just in like from a basic layman's point of view?
Definitely. So, an EKG is exactly what you mentioned. It's electrocardiogram. It's actually quick test to check the heartbeat. So let's put it in a very easy and simple way to understand. it records your electrical signals in the heart, because we know that
Nice.
the heart actually pumps, right? But it records electrical signals. And thanks to EKG or ECG, we can actually help to diagnose heart attacks, irregular heartbeats, that are called arrhythmias. So even, for example, I'm having here Apple Watch, right? An Apple Watch is
Yes.
now even classified as class 2 medical device because it can detect arrhythmia. And fun fact, my aunt, that was last year for Easter, we had some family gathering. And when you have family gathering, you eat, you drink, etc. And the next day, the Apple Watch turned on the alarm because her heart started to beat like irregularly. So she went to the hospital, and actually, thanks to this Apple Watch, everything went fine. So why I'm saying this is that this ECG or EKG actually can save you even like lives, and the software's medical device can save people's lives right now. And which is great is that in the past, ECG was only available at home. I mean, in the hospitals. ECG was only available in the hospitals, and in order to do this test, you had to have the physician next to you. But now, with all the technology, with your like software's medical device, you can do it at home, which is great.
Nice, nice. I'm really happy to hear that. And, just to add on to something quickly that you could have mentioned was like, if because the heart basically releases an electric impulse for people, who might need to know a little bit of more information. Like looking at that electric impulse that you get from the heart, I think everyone knows what I'm talking about based on the cartoons we've all seen growing up. Like, of like someone's heart, then it creates a beeping sound when you're dead. But that electric wavelength actually tells you different parts of your heart cycle. So it tells you, so the doctor can get an idea of exactly what may be happening, and therefore it can kind of predict like a heart attack before it happens. So I'm actually happy that it worked for your aunt. I wouldn't want to blame the food she ate for Christmas as the cause of this, but. Yeah, it saved their life essentially, because sometimes you don't want it to be picked up too late. And there's also been cases where I don't know how true it is, because I've deliberately not gotten an Apple Watch because I still prefer the old, like watches with the face and everything. But soon enough I'll be getting one myself. But I know that there's also the side to it where it can look at your heart rate, and it can also like call like an ambulance for
Yes.
you. So if in a car accident, for instance, your Apple Watch can call like an ambulance for you. And by the way, we're not sponsored by Apple on this
No, no,
podcast. We're
no.
not we're not endorsing Apple at all, but we're just saying like this is where the technology has come. And looking at the softwares, like behind that, like when you're designing like like software, but even at HTD, like where you are right now, like
Mhm.
what's your day-to-day job? What does it mean being a software as a medical device designer or principal lead? What do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so every day is different, but it's so, and that's what makes it fun and exciting. So, what we do actually at HTD, our mission is to make the healthcare more human and more accessible. So, what we do day to day basis, we actually solve problems that our clients have. So, let's say if our clients that are from range from big medical device companies like Smith and Nephew, Johnson and Johnson, big universities, research institutions like Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute, Boston Children's Hospital, or smaller startups, like let's say Encora Therapeutics, great startup that we are working with right now in neuroscience space, and others. They come to us and they have great idea. To make the revolution in healthcare. But very often they don't have enough resources, or they then don't have the expertise that we have. So what we actually do is we are part of their team. As myself, as day-to-day basis, we sit down together with our clients and we tackle their problems that they have. We help them to solve the issues and to come up with the optimal solutions to actually help them make the difference in the world, in the healthcare world. So, to give you more practical examples, very often I have workshops with our clients where we sit down and we think about the patient, because every time when we design and develop software solution, we have to keep in mind the end user, and the end user for medical device software is a patient or physician. So together with clients, we sit down and we think about, okay, what is the problem, right? For example, for ECG, to give that, what is the problem that patient has? The problem is that, for example, patient has arrhythmias or has problems with a heart and lives in a remote location. So they cannot really have access to care. And okay, so what could be the potential solution? Potential solution could be software as a medical device, the platform device that would enable patients to do the exams remotely. So day-to-day job varies, but sometimes I have workshops with clients to tackle issues. Sometimes I go to conferences, like the LSI where you saw me, or others. Sometimes we sit down together with the team, and I also like it very much where we sit down together and we brainstorm about the best ways for our clients to solve their issues, and we then think about how to actually, ensure that the solution is not only beautiful, but also safe. So we apply, all of the regulations, standards like usability, engineering, human factors, behavior change design, and others. So as I mentioned, it varies, but it's just simply very interesting.
Nice. And I think it's quite important for us to remember that the reason why there's so much variation is basically comes down to our ISO regulations in like in the medtech industry or with medical devices, how each particular risk management or ISO approach on any design has to meet a particular requirement. And some companies actually struggle to meet those regulations. And that's why they might be, forced to sort of like seek like a firm like yours that develops softwares out house and then sort of like get it designed outside of the company. And then they have a product which they can then have like, better like assurance that they don't have to worry about their risk management and everything, all the paperwork that goes on with that. So that's also quite important as to why like you guys exist, because it's a lot of work for people to do that. And I never really got to share, but my first job in R&D actually for medical devices, I was working on developing a software for a new medical device, which we're basically inventing for chemotherapy patients, because the machine was basically, how it works. It basically prevents a side effect of chemotherapy called peripheral neuropathy. And what happens there is that this is basically like nerve cell damage from chemotherapy drugs. So with four other people, other guys were working on different parts. My particular role was to work on the software side. Then I had to design the algorithm, like the operating system of that particular device. And when they filed for the patent, because I'd done that, it took me about 13 months to do that entire software. And when they filed for the patent, they put my name there with four other people because we'd worked on that. And the patent was published, I think, on the 12th of May, 2022, so like just about 2 years ago now, and it's still on the way to market. So people, I'm just trying to paint a picture on what it takes for a medical device to actually get to market for people. And since then, obviously, that was just the idea was to patent the main algorithm, the main operating system, or the firmware, as other people might call it, which is in layman terms is basically the instructions that tell the device what to do. So when you open your phone, all those things is basically that main software that tells it how to operate. And yeah, so that's what I did, and that's what was really exciting, and that's why when I saw that you're a software designer, or for medical devices, I was particularly quite keen on that, because not only do you know how to program, but sometimes you also know how you have to implement the code with the regulations. So I don't know what you like the most. Do you like looking more at the actual building of the product, or do you like looking at the software to see if it complies to regulations? What's
I
your
know.
favorite point?
So now, since I'm leading the department, I have different like team members, like engineers, designers, quality people, that also are in charge of the specific particular things. But what I really love about the software as a medical device thing is that yes, you have to really have skills and knowledge from so many different kind of like angles, aspects, because from one side you have the design and patient, let's say, user experience, then you have risk management, then you have cybersecurity, which is also very important now as FDA released new guidances about the cybersecurity. Then you have the software and engineering, and what I love the most is actually marrying all that together, and making sure that everything works well and optimizing the process, because this is very important what you mentioned, that very often, our clients also, they don't have the knowledge, the expertise about documentation, processes, how to make it in an optimal way, because it can be very cumbersome, like to design and develop a software as a medical device. And what I really love also is kind of like thinking, how can we optimize the process? How can we make it in a best optimal way, increase the, accelerate development and decrease the cost for the client. So that's what I like.
Nice. And just one funny thing that I found out when I was, building that software, which I think could be funny to share right now, is that the regulations for software, as for medical devices, is so strict. So much that even when you're designing the interface, etc., you can't just use a red button there because it looks cool. Because like in the ISO standard, they'll be like, no, a red button is associated with a warning sign or something like that. So there's a lot of human factors as well that goes behind the scene. So you can't just use a button simply because it looks cool. And because of that, I think on the first like sort of like episode I had, I was complaining about why medtech is slower than other techs, etc. And it comes down to those little nitty gritty things. And sometimes if you look at medical devices in hospitals, they don't look nice. They're
Yeah.
not attractive. And it's partially because of so many regulations. Everyone is just trying to get to market as soon as possible or without creating, more hurdles for themselves. So I'm quite happy to hear that. And like leading on to what you're saying, one of the things that you mentioned, because you also went on the MedTech podcast and with Singh, and he's my friend. I did a co-hosted episode together, and one of the things you're talking on that podcast was about like what is like healthcare strategy, design and in agile development. Like, what does
Mhm.
that really mean? For people like me who don't know, like who don't do this for a living on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely. So, when you think about designing and developing traditional hardware medical device, you most often follow this waterfall methodology. So we have
Yes.
these two main methodologies, waterfall and agile. And I always think about kind of give them two metaphors for waterfall. One is you can think about waterfall methodology as kind of a waterfall that the water falls, from the top to down, like it has the sequence. Or a waterfall methodology, think about it as riding a train. You know the path, you know all the stops, but if you miss one stop, the whole journey is then delayed, actually, because it's so sequenced. And then on the other side, agile is kind of like a backpacking. You know the point A, you know point B, and you go somewhere, but okay, you kind of get, for example, you on your way, you get some feedback, for example, user feedback, and you can adapt. So when you backpack, you meet somebody that will tell you, hey, don't go to the left, go to the right. So you go to the right, and you're more agile, so you can adapt to changes. It's raining, so you will change, and the same is with actually software design and development. Being agile means actually being able to adapt to change, to adapt to user feedback once you are developing and designing, to adapt to new regulations, to maybe even adapt to new market needs and research, and maybe your budget and current conditions. Because when you develop traditional as a hardware medical device, then you should actually have, the drawings, all the preparations, calculations, and then plan how to get from A to B. But Agile is um, more flexible. So how we work at HTD, we developed our internal compliant agile way to work, which means actually that we are agile and compliant with FDA regulations. And how? It's actually, so when we develop software as a medical device, we follow normally 2 week sprints. And in the beginning of 2 week sprints, we have this sprint planning sessions during which we actually define user needs. We define also like design inputs. We define design verification plan for specific sprint. And then we work during these 2 weeks sprints, at the end of which we always hold not only sprint review, but also design review. And design review is a term that is required by FDA, to actually have also independent reviewer and to review what was done during this 2 weeks period of time. And then if something was not developed how we wanted it to be, or for example, if after these 2 weeks we define that, hey, actually regulation changed or something changed and we have to make the change, which means being agile, we follow our procedure called for the change management and change order procedure. And then, we can adapt to change, of course, following all the procedures and regulations. But again, we don't have to wait until the whole project is done and make the change, but we can immediately react to change. So in short, waterfall is just having complete plan and just following the plan without change. And agile is knowing you have to get from A to Z, but how you're going to figure out along the way, and you can change.
Nice. And which one would you say is the fastest method to getting approval to market?
When it comes to software, I would always follow Agile, compliant Agile. When it comes to hardware, I do think that the Waterfall makes more sense. But we at HTD, we specialize in software, so development. So I would say the Agile is our go-to. But of course, Agile with some limitations, right, and borders that are requirements from the FDA, because we have to be compliant.
Nice. That's good. And I also learned a few things there, so I'm happy to hear that. And just to ask like one more question regarding this, really, is that you guys I know you got an office in the US, I think and you got an office in Poland. So are these two offices made to cater for two different markets between the US market and the European market, or do you guys also cater for other markets, like as in like Asian markets, etc., when it comes to software as a medical device, or do you guys have a speciality in terms of jurisdiction, or what did you say to people listening right now from per se Asia,
Yep.
wanting to listen to this? Can they also come to you guys, or what?
Of course, everybody can come to us, and everybody can come to us. But we specialize in U.S. market, European market, and currently we are expanding to also Middle East. And we have some conversations actually with some potential clients from South Korea and Taiwan. So also Asian market as well. But as our actually roots are from Europe and US, we specialize in the US and European markets and regulations. But because we are growing pretty fast, we're also expanding right now, and we have like new advisor joining us from like actually Dubai. So also Middle East, and we have some also very great connections, and some of the team members in Asia, so are expanding there as well.
Nice,
And
nice.
we have also some clients in Australia, so as well. So, yeah.
That's good. And just to just add more information to people listening in terms of what it means when you're expanding your jurisdiction as a medical device company, whether it's software or hardware, it basically means complying to a new set of rules. Although sometimes you get some rules that that cover all general rules, but some markets tend to be stricter than others. And
Yeah.
like in notorious markets, that's hard to get into is like, like the Japanese market or like, Singapore, etc. Because they're much more strict in certain ways. The FDA is like more conservative. So each market has its own benefits and sort of like disadvantages, and that's what it means. So every time you expand into a new territory, new jurisdiction for a medical device company, it's really an achievement. And I'm happy to hear that you guys are doing that, in the process of doing that. And yeah, and then just to like add on to like like your thoughts on the future, like how do you see sort of like software as a medical device evolving like in the future? I know you mentioned earlier that we already have this in our sort of like day-to-day like devices such as like Apple Watches, etc. But how do you see it progressing in the future?
I do think that the future is bright for a software as medical device, as not only because of like technology advancements, but also thanks to FDA new guidances. And FDA is actually really paying attention to that. And they are evolving together with technology. Like we can see new cybersecurity guidance, we can see new documentations about AI and ML, because AI and machine learning and large language models, that will also make a change within software's medical device, because now we can really create software that will diagnose, will treat patients. And of course that is the higher risk of the devices, but it brings a lot of value. So I do think that this market, and this is also I've read some of the like reports that the software as medical device market is growing pretty fast, because now even traditional hardware medical device companies are looking into ways how to digitize their offering, how to even make the use of their hardware devices, because thanks to digital or software, you can just expand your offering and really make, just improve patients' outcomes, improve patient engagement and access to care. So I do think that it's just a matter of time, and software we will eat the world, as everybody now is moving towards that. So it's not only because I'm working at the healthcare at the software ecosystem, but
Yeah.
I do think that that's the future for software.
Nice, nice. And you're right about that, because even on the podcast, I've had several companies that are using AI now. So with those company which I had recently, they're using AI for hair transplants, for men getting bald. So it's that there's more higher efficacy. And the other company is also using AI to read X-ray scans, because sometimes doctors, after working long hours, they can miss certain things on X-rays, etc. And I've got more like AI companies in terms of like in the med tech space that are lined up to come on the podcast. And it just shows you how fast they're growing. People are throwing money into it. Venture capitalists are quite keen to hear about anything with AI right now, because it's like, I would say it's like it's the new crypto. I would like to say, like, everyone is studying AI stuff and everyone is hoping to make a fortune, and some fortunes will be made from this. There's no doubting that. And also, but at the end of the day, I always say when it comes to software or medical devices in general, the way I like to see it, it's not always about how about increasing our personal wealth, but it's also about we tend to measure like success in terms of the impact it has on people, like in this particular industry. And that's one thing I like about this industry, is that people tend to say, okay, yes, we can be rich, fine, but we've also helped like so many lives, etc. And now that's really interesting you say that, because as much as people might be worried about AI and stuff like that, is most of the fear now is gone essentially, and people are starting to be excited about things that are coming. We already got like large language models like ChatGPT, as you mentioned, and several other ones which are coming. And but just out of curiosity, have you worked on any AI algorithms before, or like in your own spare time?
Myself, like doing the coding, no. But at HTD, we've done pretty cool projects for some big, really names in United States. As we have also, apart from software's medical device practice, we have AI ML practice, which is led by Erkin, who is MD PhD. He's medical doctor and he has PhD in AI ML. So he brings, clinical expertise and also the researcher, which is great. So we've done some projects in the oncology space, and currently also are in the conversations to do some ECG device, as we've also done some cardiology work, neuroscience work, AI ML. So many different applications within the team, within the HTD, organizations. So I was part of that, kind of managing and consulting, but not doing the actual coding there.
Oh, nice, nice, nice. No, that's good. That's good. And yeah, I know. Just looking at the time, I'm grateful to have had you today on the podcast. But before you go, where can people find you? I know, like, I'll obviously put your LinkedIn link below this. But like, at which place are you gonna be going to next? Because I know you've been traveling quite a lot as well as part of your job. So where can people find you, and how do they get in touch with you guys if they want to
Yeah,
make use of your
so
services?
first of all, thank you so much, Rodney, for having me here. So you can definitely just reach out to me on LinkedIn. But if you want to have a coffee in person, I'm going to be in June. I'm going to be in Amsterdam at Health Europe. So that's from 17th to 20th of June. Then I'm going to be at LSI Portugal from 16th to 20th of September. And I might come to MedTech Malta. Who knows, right?
Yes.
Let's see exactly. So if any of the listeners are gonna be to any of those events, just feel free to reach out to me, and I would love to chat and meet. But also, just feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. As Rodney mentioned, my link will be there under the
This
description.
episode, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So definitely eager to meet the audience.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you very much, Veronica. I think people learned quite a lot today. Just covering the basics of what software as a medical device is, and hopefully you've even inspired some people to take into consideration pursuing a career into that. And as I told you before, I just realized one more thing before I let you go is that the majority of the audience on this podcast are females, right? And which is quite nice for me because there's been many campaigns happening on trying to convince females to get into STEM, etc. And I'm sure most of them will be wondering, like, like, how have you found like your career, like in a STEM field? What would you say to those people? Because those are the majority of the people listening to this episode right now.
Yeah,
Is
for
words of
sure.
motivation.
Yeah, it's awesome to actually to hear that majority of listeners are female, because I think women rock the world, and just don't be afraid, because very often women have this imposter syndrome, which is like, I don't know if I'm good enough. So no, you are good enough. You are good enough. Just go for it. Be open for the challenge, like hiking Kilimanjaro. Your career might be challenging, but it's definitely rewarding. And being in healthcare, what makes me get up the bed every day is actually, helping people. When you make this device, you always keep in mind that at the end, you're saving lives of people, so you're making the difference in the world. So it's definitely worth it.
Cool. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that.
Thank you so much, Rodney. It was a pleasure. Thank you.